Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It is a gloomy, rainy day in Florida, so I wanted to play with makeup, and I basically had a bunch of stuff I wanted to try out and wanted to try all of it, so it's a lot more than I've done a lot recently. The lip is very bold, and probably wouldn't pair it with the eye, but I'm still very happy with how everything individually performed. So if you want a bunch of mini reviews on a ton of products, some of which are first impressions, some of which I've used in the past but I wanted to try again, make sure to keep on watching and don't forget to subscribe because I upload every other day, and that'll be the best way to stay up to date on all the fun stuff I'm posting. So if you want to jump into a pretty much full face of first impressions and mini reviews and a demo on everything here, stay tuned. So my skin is already prepped, and I have done some spot concealing. If you're interested in how I do that, I will link that up above. But today I'm going to start with the Natasha Denona Transform Matte Pore Vanishing Matte Foundation. This was actually featured in last month's BoxyCharm, but I did not get it in my box. But I did have this sent over. So this is PR, but not sponsored. I am trying it in the shade 10R, which is fair red. Off of the first pump, I think it could be a good match. I cannot tell you how infrequently I wear a matte foundation. So, okay. Looks like it's going to be a little light if I really build it up. So I'm going to apply it, sheer all over the skin. That way it doesn't wash me out too much. And I can always deepen with powder. But yeah, that is, I can tell you right now, a little on the light side. So I'm going to mix that into something else. I'm going to take a little bit of the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Hydrating Foundation, which is in a shade that is much more my match. And I'm going to dot that on while the Transform Matte is still wet, and then blend the two together. So to my neck, it looks okay. To the face, I look ghostly white. But that is an easy fix with some contour and bronzer. But I definitely feel a little on the fair side today. So matte foundations do tend to oxidize where the pigment darkens a little bit as it dries down on the skin. So I'm going to give that like a little bit of time to dry down before I assess if I need to go in with like a much darker powder just to even it out. But while I wait for that, I am going to go in with concealer. I'm going to use the Jouer Essential High Coverage Cream Concealer. I'm sorry, Liquid Concealer. I am using the shade Toast, which for me is a neutralizing shade, but is not a very bright shade. So it is still lighter than the foundation, but it is more in line with what I'm going to call a natural makeup day, and not like a super bright, stark under eye, though it will give a little bit of brightening. So now that that's blended out, I will say that the brightening of the concealer and the tone of the foundation, now that it's dried down a little bit, it doesn't feel quite as stark as I think it did when I first applied it. So I'm happier with that. I'm going to take the Soft Focus Hydrate and Set Powder from Jouer in the shade Light, and I'm going to take that on my under eye, because this is a pressed powder with hyaluronic acid, which is a very hydrating ingredient, so it's not going to cake up the under eye. So really a beautiful powder for any of the areas where we typically don't want to accentuate anything. And then going into the One Size Turn Up the Base in the shade Light 1R, I'm going to take that and just set down everywhere else. This is a good shade for me, so I think this will be enough to add a tiny bit more coverage to the foundation and also deepen it up a tiny bit so that it doesn't look quite as pale. All right, now that that's warmed up a little and I feel a little less pasty, I still look very fair, I'm going to go into contour, bronzer, blush, and highlight, because that'll give me a little dimension back. Ofra sent over the Midi palette in the shade Light. This is a highlighter, contour, and bronzer. So I'm going to use these today. They sent me this for reviewing purposes, but this is not sponsored. And I know Ofra has been going through it in social media lately, because apparently, and I don't know all the details because I try to like stay out of a lot of that, but apparently the vice president or something was photographed with a white supremacist motto from like 4 or 5 years ago, and he has recently stepped down. So I will have to do more homework as to whether or not, this is one of those things that is performative and he's still involved in the brand, because we do not support white supremacy. But also, if he is not associated with the brand anymore, then I have no problem trying and utilizing their products, because they've got some great formulas that I have loved in the past. But if he's like still a partial owner or anything like that, then this might be the last Ofra feature on my channel. We will do our homework and see. If you have any information, feel free to comment it down below. But yeah, I'm not about cancel culture, but I'm also not about giving money to white supremacists. So, we gotta kind of take our battles and do what we gotta do. Now I'm going into the bronzer shade just to blend that over the edges. I have used Ofra products for a very long time on my channel. They are some amazing formulas, so I can really say that this is not in any way surprising me. I feel like I'm getting some good warmth to the skin. I also feel like I'm getting, a really nice blend. And everything's just looking really pretty. I feel like the light is washing me out a little today, but that's what happens when it is a rainy, overcast day in Florida. There's no sunshine, so all of the natural light that I normally have is completely gone. Now the highlight is in the shade Star Island. I have used their highlighters a million times, so I'm not going to be using the highlight on camera, because I'm going to be using from Jouer. I have their new Blush and Bloom Côte d'Azur and Côte de Provence lip and cheek duos. And I'm going to be using the cream blush. No, I don't want that color. I'm going to use the cream blush and cream highlighter today, just because that's the vibe I'm feeling. Now, I have used this formula before, so I am aware that it does actually work pretty well on top of powder. I know a lot of blushes do not. So I'm going to be going through all 4 shades, kind of blending and cocktailing them together for my own custom glowy blush. But I'm going to just be blending out those. And I'm going to take that with a sponge, and I'm going to blend that in an upward motion into the skin. This is one of those blushes where a little goes a long way, but you can really build it up for some intense blushy glow, if that's what you're into. I'm going to take a little bit more of the deepest shade, just to add a tiny bit more rosiness. And I think now that I'm looking at it, I am getting some nice glow to it, but I think I am going to go in and take that highlighter on top as well, just to build it up a little bit more. Okay, so going into the shade Star Island, just going to add a little bit of glow to the cheekbone. This is a very intense highlighter formula. All of the Ofra highlighters are. So a little does go a long way. And then I do like to take my blush brush, which today obviously I didn't use, and just blend and pull that highlighter down over the cheek, because it really diffuses that glow and makes it look a little bit more natural, as opposed to a stripe of shine on the face. Just kind of lets the cheek do its own glow. Next, this came out of my Look Fantastic box. This is the Do You highlighter from Josephine. This is in the shade Claire. And I'm going to take a little bit of this just to add a little bit more glow to the cheeks and the nose. Just because I forgot I had this, so I do want to try it out. It definitely dries down pretty quickly, so you want to make sure that you blend it out fast and you don't let it dry down on the skin, because where it dried down, I'm getting a little bit of pulling. But let's use a little setting spray, see if that brings it back to life. All right, I'm going to let that dry down. I'm going to go prime my eyelids, do my brows off camera, and I'll be right back to do eyes and lip. All right, I am back. I did recently feature the new Beauty For Real Golden Hour palette, which I am absolutely in love with. And I did get a couple requests to use both the pink in the palette and the blue in the palette, because I didn't in my launch video. So I am going to be using, I think I'm going to go with the pink today, and then I'll do another video in the future with the blue one, if that's something you are all still interested in. So I'm going to start by dropping my brushes on the floor. I'm going to start with the shade Horizon, and I'm just going to throw that in the crease And then picking up a little bit of shadow, the darker of the two colors, I'm going to concentrate that just in the socket of the eye to build up some definition. Next, on a fluffier brush, I'm going to go back into Horizon on the tip, and I'm going to really use this to blend that crease. Normally, I would use a fluffier brush and one that's not as flat, but for this, I really want a smooth blend in the crease area, so using a brush like this will really help to airbrush that out. Before I commit to a lid shade, I'm going to go in with some brown eyeliner and pop that on my waterline. With a pencil brush and shadow the dark brown, I'm just going to set that down and gently buff it out. And then with the other side, the fluffier side, I'm going to take Horizon and just blend that out again. Now that we've got some smokiness, I'm going to take that first brush with a little of both of those shades mixed together and just blend it on the outer crease again, just to add a little more smokiness. Now I'm going into Pink Sands on a dense packer brush. I am going to give that a mist with some setting spray. This formula is super foiled, so a little setting spray just helps to reduce a little bit of the fallout if you load too much on your brush. Otherwise, there really isn't much fallout. I do love a pink eyeshadow look. And I'm going to take a little bit of Reflection, the lightest shade in the palette, and I'm going to use that to highlight the inner corner. All right, I'm going to do this on this eye, pop on some mascara and maybe a lash, and I'll be right back. All right, I am back. I'm really happy with them. My eyes have been looking lately without lashes, so I think I'm going to keep just the mascara and no lash today, but I do feel like we need a little bit of a bold lip. So I'm going to be using first the Thrive Cosmetics lip liner in the shade Devon, which for me is like a go-to fall type color. It's a little more on the berry side. And now that we're lined, I'm going to the base blue. This is the IVF Collection Long Lasting Liquid Lipstick in the shade Unbreakable Bond. I think this was such a cool messaging and so informative, and honestly just a beautiful collaboration. So it looked like they would match a little bit better, but that's okay. I will just make sure to layer the lip over the liner and it'll be fine. And under normal circumstances, I probably wouldn't pair this lip and eye together, but I did really want to try the lip, and I really like the way the color looks. I think I would just want it with something a little bit smokier. So I am going to take that fluffy brush and a tiny bit more of the brown color shadow, and just add a tiny bit more darkness to the outer portion of the eye. I know that seems like a minor change, but I really feel like that helped to balance everything out. So honestly, I'm really happy with everything we tried today. I think the skin looks really nice. The foundation is a little more shiny than I would like, especially given that it is a matte foundation. I know I mixed it with a hydrating foundation, but when I've used the ColourPop or the Pretty Fresh foundation in the past, I have not felt that I got oily, and I feel like I'm getting very shiny today. So I don't think I love that foundation. The liner was not the right color for the lip, and I definitely overlined a little bit today anyway, but I'm not mad at how it all turned out. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!